It had been predicted that the 10 tribes were to be exceedingly numerous. Some people protest how you want to say all these millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people all descend from Hebrews. That's what could have happened. That's what history indicates did happen, and that was what was prophesied in the Bible. That's what the Bible says. See Genesis 16:10, 22:17, Isaiah 1:10. That there would be the richest peoples on earth. See Genesis 27:28, 49:25, Deuteronomy 33:13-16, Isaiah 2:8, the most powerful nations on earth. See Numbers 24:8-7, Numbers 24:8-7, Micah 5:7-9. That they were possessing international strategic bases of the world, the gates of the enemy. See Genesis 22:16-17, 24:6-3. Places such as Gibraltar, Ramstein in Germany under US control, and numerous US and British bases all over the world. You only have to look at a map. All over the world, there's about 700 US bases all over the world, and they control those areas. They lock the world up, like it or not. That is a plus. That is a controlling factor, a potential controlling factor that the USA controls, and the rest of the world agrees with it. Also likened unto a lion and a unicorn, see Numbers 24:8-9, the symbols of Britain, and brought as an eagle, Micah 1-16. They were to be largely unaware of the Israelite identity, to practice a non-Israelite and non-Jewish religion, see Isaiah 2:8, Isaiah 2:8, Isaiah 2:8, Isaiah 2:13, 2:16, Isaiah 11:12. They were to be in many oceans and islands, north and west of the land of Israel and in the coastlands, and so on. This is also confirmed by rabbinical sources. See Rashi in Abijah 1:20. It says the lost 10 tribes were in Zarephath, meaning it says Rashi, the land of France, and above and now also on this verse says that means not only France but also Britain and France together. That is where the lost 10 tribes are. And Nachmanides also said something similar, that they were in the ends of the far north. That's where he says the lost 10 tribes are. And Hath himself also predicted that in the end times, the time of the Messiah, Britain and parts of Western Europe, and also to the ends of the Atlantic Ocean, perhaps indicating North America, all that area will be part of the promised land of Israel. So this ties into what we're saying. Also, we have legends from the Second Temple period and after that, early Jewish legends, which also confirm what we are speaking of. And Ireland is also important. Ireland is especially important for different reasons. Ireland and Britain together were known as the Isles of the Blessed, or Ireland especially as the Isle of the Saints, or Isle of the Blessed. Different legends confirm that the lost 10 tribes were in that place. So we have the lost 10 tribes here, in these places. So we may ask, what was the point of it all? What was the point of all this rigmarole? Why couldn't things be simple? Why did the Almighty want it to be this way? So we cannot say that we are a party privy to the intentions of the Almighty. We can only say what the Bible indicates, what the commentaries on the Bible indicate, what traditions indicate, and the overall impression. And we can simplify it because we are simple people, and we need things to be presented to us in a simple, clear-cut way. And that is what can be done. We have, one could say, a divine plan. Divine plan, a divine plan. What was supposed to happen? What was supposed to happen? What was the intention of this whole situation? what was behind it all. So first of all, we can say what the Bible tells us. The Israelites came out of Egypt. And the intention was that all the 12 tribes should receive the Torah and practice it, as they did. They received the Torah in the wilderness and they began to practice it. And that is also the basis for the oral tradition. The oral tradition. You had to have an oral tradition because it was given to all the people at once, and everyone had to keep the same law. And they were told that if they have any problems, they should go to the judges that will be in their time and ask what is done, and they had to do what they were told if they agreed with the interpretation or not. And this is the same continued generation after generation. The Bible was explained through the oral tradition, and the only ones who continued to keep the oral tradition was the section of Judah, the Jewish people. And this was predicted that Judah would be faithful. Judah would be faithful to this. Judah would keep the law and develop it and preserve it. And that was the peculiar task of Judah. And that is where you get the oral tradition and the laws that the rabbis have. The rabbis say that these laws are only applicable to Jews. So they're not telling you should keep the Sabbath as they keep Sabbath, or that you should do this or that as they do it. But they say what they are doing is what the Bible requires of them, what the Almighty through the Bible directed them to do from the very beginning. And in the consideration of what is going on, this point has to be kept in mind. No matter what how you understand, no matter what the outcome is, that fact has to be kept in mind that the Jews are the keepers of the law and the developers of the law and the explaining of the law, and have a divine sanction to be that way. Okay, a very important point. So they came out of Egypt and they went into the wilderness, and they received the law in the wilderness. And they were supposed to go in and then conquer the land of Canaan and drive out the Canaanites and divide the land up between the tribes. And they would have a king and build a temple. And all nations of the earth would come up to Jerusalem to learn, to their center, to the temple to learn. And everyone should receive instruction from Jerusalem. The tribe of David is the priests, Cohens, the descendants of Aaron, brother Moses, and other Levites that would serve in the temple, and together with the sages, they would develop the law. Neighbors would evolve in every sense and elevate the rest of mankind along with them. So this is similar as what we understand will take place in the Messianic era. In other words, the intention was what would happen in the Messianic era should happen straight away. But the world wasn't ready for it. The Israelites weren't ready for it. They lacked something. They couldn't do it all. They had an internal weakness, a moral imperfection. They couldn't cope with it. It did not work out that way. First of all, they had the sin of the golden calf. Moses went away for a while and they thought he was dead, and they started worshipping a golden calf. So that was the first offense. They couldn't take this pure monotheism. They weren't up to it. After the golden calf, they also had the sin of the spies. They went into the land to spy it out, and they decided it wasn't good enough, or they weren't good enough. Whatever the case, they didn't want to go in. So there was a breakdown. They got over it, but nevertheless it was registered against them. After that, they conquered the land. And they divided it up. They were supposed to drive out all the Canaanites. But rather than drive out all the Canaanites, they intermixed with them. They made peace with them. They intermarried with them. They had concourse with them. They learned from them. They were influenced by them. So they were supposed to wait for a king when the Almighty would decide that the time was right, but they wanted one beforehand. So they received King Saul from the tribe of Benjamin. The name of Shaul in Hebrew, Shaul, means borrowed, lended, temporary. He was supposed to be a temporary king. But nevertheless, he had a chance. He had a chance at the main thing. And he wasn't up to it. wasn't good enough to be a king. In some ways, he was better than David, but to be a king, it wasn't good enough. And David also wasn't perfect. He was prevented from building the temple. His son Solomon built it. Solomon, the son of David, built the temple. Solomon took foreign wives, a lot of women. He liked women, apparently. Whatever the reason, he took a lot of wives. Some of these wives were foreign women. A lot of these wives were foreign women, and turned his heart away. They caused him to hanker or to be drawn aside after foreign pagan influences. And because of that, it was decided that the kingdom should be taken away from him. But because of his father, because of what he had some good in him, it was not done in his time, but in the time of his son Rehoboam, in Hebrew, from the Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, the 10 tribes separated, and they stood up their own kingdom under Jeroboam, son of Nebat, from the tribe of Ephraim. And he too, he set up golden calves. He set up golden calves in Dan in the north, in Bethel, near, not far from Jerusalem. These golden calves were supposed to replace worship in the temple. And he prevented his people from going up to Jerusalem 3 times a year, as they used to do to the temple. He set up guards on the way. And also he prevented them from practicing circumcision, which was a sign of the covenant between the Lord Almighty and the Israelite nation. And people went from one thing to another until eventually they were conquered by Assyria and all their inhabitants were taken away. That was the beginning of the lost 10 tribes in history. And different commentators such as Rav Yosef Valley in the 1700s, he said the reason for them being exiled, for Ephraim being exiled, was in order that they should intermix with the pagans, the pagan nations, and elevate them from within. Isaac Colin Cook in the 1900s, he also said something similar. So this concept has been exists, and this explains one of the reasons for the exile of lost tribes, and they're losing consciousness of who they are. We should know that all Asian peoples lost consciousness of who they are. All the peoples who today can really claim to be a descent from the ancient Babylonians, from the Assyrians, from the Persians. Who can be certain of that? Who is a Roman? Who is a descendant of Caesar? Who is a Greek? Who is who? No one knows. No one really knows. Everyone got mixed up with everyone else. But physically, we all remain. We all trace ourselves back to someone. We all belong to someone. So lost in tribes, they lost awareness. They got lost. It was pretty good that they get lost, and get lost they did. They forgot who they are and who they were, but physically they remained together in different groups. And after them, the Jews were also exiled. First they were exiled to Babylon after being in Babylon for 70 years. A portion of them returned to Judea, and they established the Great Assembly, 120 sages, and these sages, this assembly of 120 included prophets, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. 3 prophets were in the Great Assembly. And also in the Great Assembly were the sages. So here you have an overlap between the prophets and the sages. So you had different stages in history, different levels of revelation, different situations. And from there was a transition from the period of the prophets to the period of the sages. And in this transition, prophets were involved in the establishment of the Great Assembly of 120 members. And these 120 members, when one retired or one passed away, they weren't replaced until the number came down to 70. This was the number, this were reflected the 70 elders who were appointed by Moses in the wilderness. See Numbers 11:6, 16, 11:16, also 20, verses 24 to 25. the chapter 11 Numbers. And this was the beginning of Judaism as we now know it. The second temple was built. Eventually the second temple was destroyed by the Romans. Judah was exiled yet again and scattered in many directions. But nevertheless, Judah more or less kept the faith and developed it as it had been prophesied in many places in the Bible that he would do. In the future, 10 tribes are going to come back. 10 tribes are going to know who they are. It's going to be revealed to them. Or they are going to discover it, become aware of it through their own efforts. Somehow or other, this knowledge is going to spread and be made known. And we should continue to do it because that is what we have to do, what should be done. They should know who they are. And eventually a leader, a Messiah, son of Joseph. You would have two Messiahs according to tradition. Two Messiahs, the Messiah son of Joseph, Messiah son of David. The Messiah son of Joseph will come to the 10 tribes. And he will tell them who they are in general and begin to lead them back. It will also help the state of Israel establish itself, set itself up. It will help the state of Israel defend itself. He will do things that today America and Britain are doing. You know, in this recent conflict against the Arabs. Now, we all know that America is helping Israel, supplying it with munitions and support, despite some resistance internally. It is doing that. It's been doing this for decades. Israel also receives assistance from Britain. British planes from Cyprus regularly fly over Gaza, surveilling it and photographing it and relaying the information back to Israel. And this is assistance that Britain is doing without making it too public. So this is of significance because we identified both Britain and the USA with the forces of the Messiah, son of Joseph. The forces of Joseph, from whom will emerge the Messiah, son of David, the Messiah, son of Joseph, and he will do what, to some degree, they're already doing. He will develop it. After that will come the Messiah, son of David. The Messiah, son of David, will help the Jews return to the Judaism, keep Judaism. Before the temple will be rebuilt, either by the son of Joseph or by Messiah, son of David, and each and every Israelite will be made known to them through some way or other, not only that they are descended from the lost 10 tribes, but which particular tribe amongst the lost 10 tribes they pertain to. So how these things will come about, we don't know. We won't know until they actually come, but they are already. We see they are within the borderline, within the limits of present feasibility. These are things that could happen, that conceptually could take place.
Yair, I have a question. You mentioned earlier in the beginning of your talk that we have tasks to do at this time of the world. And we are born, you implied that we are born at this time because we have tasks to do. Do you have any elaboration on what those tasks, plural, may be?
Oh, you're asking me if I can elaborate on that point?
Yes.
Yeah. What the task may be. So what the task should be, first of all, on the national plane, what the task should be is more or less what is being done, but more of it, with a greater conscious understanding that this is what we should be doing. This is what God wants. God wants us to help the state of Israel, wants us to stand up for ourselves, wants us to establish the principles of Western civilization, that are biblical principles, to look after each other, to look after ourselves, as we are beginning to do. But it helps to know that the Bible also indicates this is what should be done. This is what the Bible and relation sources also support this approach. It helps a lot to be aware of this is what the biblical. This is a biblical task that we are being given. In addition to that, it also is important that the knowledge of Israelite ancestry should be made known. And at the moment, the best way as we see of this being made known is to help us, or to help people like us, to spread the word, to spread this message. Even though we may be certain imperfections that could be improved upon, overcome, we are doing what needs to be done. And we are the ones doing it, and divine providence, for reasons of its own, so wanted it to be done at this stage. So as we see it, as we understand it, helping us is part of what needs to be done on that point.
Yeah, thank you, Yair. That's important for all of us to remember. So I wanted to ask you that because by virtue of the fact that we are born at this time, the Almighty has decided that Yair, Lowell, myself, and others, our audience, this whole generation, has a responsibility to handle tasks that prior generations were not equipped to handle. We're born in the age of technology and also in the age of great evils that will happen, unprecedented evils around the world, during which also unprecedented revelations will arise by the Almighty's grace about his agenda for Israel and for this generation. So thank you, Yair, again.